Two Ordinary Cops, mate. Southeast Queensland windy edition. How you going?
Good, mate. Good. If it's yeah, mate, we've got the Cyclone Alfred heading our way. Hey, hold on. Apparently, mate, I did read in the media that they're going to call it what's bloody Albanese's first name?
Anthony.
Anthony. They're going to call it Anthony because that's what the computer came up with. But they said due to the election coming up, it might be bad for him. So,
Oh, dearie me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we'd have a little chat about the cyclone too and a few things happening there. But before that, we should go through some shout outs, mate. What do you got?
Hmm. Well, mate, do you want to start about the weekend where we shout out a few of the
Oh, yeah. Mm.
So Damo, for everybody listening, Damo came up and visited on Friday, and we on Friday evening we caught up with a good mate of mine, actually, school friend. Big shout out to Pete Maniatis. He looked after us that night, and we all had a few drinks with him and good yarns. And he's a good practical bloke, and lived in Brisbane his entire life, but really down to earth. And I think that was the first time you met him too, Damo.
Yeah, first time I met him. Yep. He might have poisoned me with scotch. We'll leave that alone. But yeah, it was a bloody good night. We had a really good time. It was funny. I'd never met the bloke before, but we just were mates. It's like we've been mates forever. So that was
Yep.
really good. It was good to meet him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, mate, and then after that, we then caught up with a whole lot of, well, I suppose ex and even current NT police. So,
Yes, I lost you for a second. No, I got you back. Yeah, so the
oh yeah,
Saturday was
same here.
Saturday was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I'll shout them all out. So we caught up originally. One of our old teammates down in Catherine, who was on the squad after us, Beck Hudson, absolutely legend of Catherine. She's been in the NT Police now for 18 years, so been around a very long time. Um, she we were going to catch up with her, have a few beers, all the rest of it. But then she worked out as well that another bloke, Timmy Hatton, who he's actually quite famous. If you look him up, he's been on the force a few times and territory cops and things like that. Very well known dog handler up there. I worked a lot with Tim.
Yep.
Tim was the dog handler who I mentioned in the job in Darwin City. For those who haven't heard, where I was pretty junior in not junior in the police, but very new to Darwin, and I was a new shift sergeant in Darwin, and had an absolute shitstorm in Rainbow. What's it called? Melaleuca Park, I think it is, straight across the road, Rainbow Tree Park, whatever it is. It's diagonally opposite the police station in Darwin City. Absolute shitstorm with a stabbing that turned into a knife fight that turned into something else. And anyway, he turned up with a dog and was instrumental in stopping all that crap from going on. So, and Timmy and I have got a heap of stories together. We've been all through Arnhem Land together. We've done all kinds of work, drug work especially, him being a detection dog and a GP dog handler. And he's out of the job now, but he's still very much with operational dogs down in the Queensland government. So he's doing really well. And him, and then another old mate, Craig Ramsey. Craig started GDs in Catherine, slightly junior to us, only a year or two, I think. And
Yep.
yeah, I especially worked with him a bit. We went to a couple of bad jobs. In fact, I think he commented on when we were talking about our worst jobs. We were talking about the baby. He was a general duties responder to that. So it was really good to catch up with those guys. And my brother Matt turned up as well. He's a platoon commander in 6 RAR in Toowoomba now. Yeah, Toowoomba in Brisbane now.
Yep.
And so he came along as well, and that was really good.
I think one of them, mate, that it was such a funny night. Like the one-liners from Craig Ramsey and Timmy Hatton, mate, just had us in stitches. And I know Beck said to us later on that's the best she's at, like the most laughter she's had in like probably a decade. Um,
Oh, definitely. No, absolutely. You know what it was, and we've said it before. We come out of the police force, and you can take the boy out of the police force. You can't take the police force out of the boy.
yep.
And that goes for a lot of things, but it's really rings true in policing. I've got a lot of really good mates around here. We get along brilliantly. I have a great laugh with them, all the rest of it. But they haven't got the shared experience. They haven't
Yep.
been to the trauma. They haven't seen the shit show. They haven't been there, and that's fine. That's not belittling them, but There's a reason they formed the RSL after the First World War. There's a reason that retired police associations exist,
Yeah.
and it's because every now and then, it's not that you can't function in society, but every now and then you just need to be completely surrounded by people who completely get it.
Yep.
And that's what we were, and that's why we're at that bloody pub for so long. And I
Yeah.
think that's why my brother was so welcoming. It was welcomed as well because he gets it a bit. He's in
Yeah.
the military. He gets it.
Yep.
So there was, and you can't explain it. I'm not going to try and explain it. First responders, military veterans, they get it. But
Yep.
there's something about it. You've got you're people talk about a safe space. You're in the ultimate safe space. You can say anything. You can react anyway. There's no judgment. Everyone gets it.
Yep.
So that's why it was so good. And the humor. Oh my god, the humor is not
Oh,
not.
and I think I mentioned on the Facebook page, mate, that the stories here we cannot mention on the podcast because I tell you what, they are funny, they are crude, it's black humor and all that sort of thing. And I think Craig Ramsey wrote on there, he goes, maybe 7 words out of the whole night could have been used.
You know what's funny though? We've pushed it further anyway. We've spoken about things you wouldn't think we'd release, and they've been received pretty
That's
well.
true.
So
Yep, yeah, mate. That is
yeah,
that is so right. But mate, just a big shout out to them. It was so good catching up with them. And
magnificent. It was similar to the Darwin trip. It was just,
yeah,
oh bloody hell, my people. You get it.
yeah.
You just relax. You relax to a new level when you're with people like that. So
And you put it this way, like we like I mean we drank steady. We didn't drink. We weren't even that drunk when we came home. But 14 hours we spent just about
yeah,
sitting, chatting to people and laughing, and just yeah, it was like we had dinner during that as well. But it was 14 hours. There's not many people that can sit there and say they sat down for 14 hours with their mates and had a yarn.
no, and didn't get. I tried to nod off a couple of times towards
Well,
the
you
end,
did, yeah.
but apart from that, it was. It wasn't about intoxication. I mean, we remember everything. We got home, we were fine. We
Mm.
got the Uber home. It was about conversation and camaraderie. And poor old Craig had to go back to the Gold Coast, and he wanted to leave about 6 hours before he did.
Yeah.
It was just he couldn't
Well,
leave. It was like holy bloody hell.
well, you tried to be Cinderella too, mate, and go home at midnight, but that didn't help.
No,
That
that
didn't work,
fell over
did
real quick.
it?
Yeah, I
and
was about
and a shout out to Beck Hudson, who did not even drink. She
no.
drank
Well,
soda water the whole night,
yeah,
and then actually drove my car home and dropped us home, and then took my car back to her place.
that's right. Yeah, she dropped us home. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it was just bloody excellent, mate.
yeah.
But yeah,
So
we probably should move on. What do you got? What I hear we've got a recruit. Queensland recruits commented.
yes, mate. Yeah. So just got in contact with us. Said loves the podcast and all that sort of stuff. Now he mentioned a couple because he's going up to his training up in Townsville, and I didn't realise at this time, and you and I have discussed it, and you said yeah I actually knew that, but so there is training facilities up in Townsville, but now he's mentioned that he's going up there, which he's pretty excited about because he's from southeast Queensland, and and all that sort of stuff. But a lot of the stuff he's heard, and he is not the only one we have heard it from. We have heard it from others as well. And so I thought we'd actually probably kick off today's episode more about this. Um, but one thing he did say, he said, like to hear how the academy was back when we started, like so the differences it would be. Because he said apparently it's a lot more relaxed, and it's also getting super easy, and the requirements are pretty low. Um, so
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
concerns me.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And look, I heard that even while I was in the police, and I remember even when my ex-wife went through, there was a number of things well, I mean, we used to get up at what was it? I mean, before 6 o'clock because we started doing our physical training at just after 6, just about every morning. And I know they actually relaxed that because people were complaining about getting up early. Now, for me, that really pissed me off. Not because we went through it, but because I think it lacks discipline, and that's something you need in the police. Is actually you need to be very very disciplined in yourself, and about the way you do your duties. And if you don't install that, it sets a dangerous precedent. What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah. So, I mean, you want to complain about getting up early? How about complaining about being called out at 2 a.m. when your wife's feeding a baby and all the rest of it, and you've got no option? You have to go. The job's on.
Yeah.
So, I think the reason I I'll talk about a few things. I don't like the fact that they're lowering standards. I mean, I haven't got this officially. I've got it. There was a report today that I saw the Victoria Police have done away with psych test. Well, that's insane. Doing away with psych tests,
Oh,
excuse the pun,
yeah,
that's insane.
it is. Yeah.
You need you need a certain mental, I would say resilience. It's not that you need to have a certain personality type. A number of different personalities in the police force is excellent. That's what you want. It's not about personality. What it's about is resilience and coping skills and things like that. Like people hear psychological testing and they're saying, oh, they're trying to screen out the psychos. Well,
Mm,
that's one part of it. You're giving these guys a gun and you're giving them authority and you're giving them the ability to go out on the road and do what they need to do. Um, that has to be tempered, firstly, and they have to be in the hands of someone who's got the mental capacity to deal with that. But on the other end of the spectrum is that um, we've spoken about our worst jobs. You need to be the strong one at these jobs. There's going to be humans melting down all around you, and you need to be the pillar of strength in the middle who's pulling the world together. If you're going to go to water the second you see someone with a black eye, then that's a drama. Um, next, I would say I hope they're not. Criminal history is one thing. I kind of like people in the police force who've been chastised by the cops before. They're characters, and often those characters are the ones who I've just spoken about. That come with a bit of resilience and a bit of go get them, and come on, fella, she'll be right. Let's just keep on trucking, like. And
yep.
then the ones who come up with your funny sense of humor, and that humor is massive. So if you don't have humor, this job will break you. Simple as that. It 100% will break you. If you, unless you escape the road really early and go to somewhere where you're never faced with chaos and carnage, um, the job will break you if you don't have humor and mateship and all that stuff. It is so important. I'll go back. I know we're talking about like entry standards, but I'll go back to something that Beck said the other day that really stuck with me. So Beck is from our era. She joined. She was on the squad after us. She's literally 3 months junior to us in the police force, and she's now still there, 18 months in, 18 years in.
18 years. Yeah.
And she said, "You guys are outdated." I was listening to it the other day, and all the stuff you're talking about. She goes, "I love it because I reminisce of the old days," but she was saying that is not the job anymore. That is not it. There's no. She said there's cobwebs on the door of the Bill Condon Club. She goes, everyone just turns up, they do their job, they go home. On their days off, they go to Darwin, they catch up with family, or they go and do things in a big centre. And I'm just sitting there going, that's got no longevity. There's no longevity in that. You need to make yourself at
No.
home and make yourself comfortable and capable where you are. And that upset me hearing that because that's the stuff that was good. That's the
Yep.
stuff we talk about. We dealt with a lot of horrible shit, mate. Like
Yep. Yeah.
and they still are. The jobs haven't changed. In
No.
fact, I saw. Oh, he wasn't a mate. It's not that he wasn't a mate. It's just that he was a much higher rank than me, so he wasn't in my friendship circle. But there's a fellow up there, an assistant commissioner in the Northern Territory called Travis Worst. And my first dealings with him were as a senior sergeant. I believe he was the OIC of either Groot Island or of Aliangula or Gove back in the day,
Don't.
Nullarbor.
Yeah, mate. That's right.
I can't remember which one. Anyway, he was out there early on, and I had dealings with him in crime and stuff, and I've always thought he was good. Anyway, he's now an assistant commissioner in the Northern Territory, and he did a press conference in the last day, I think it was done today, where he talked about the over the weekend, the Northern Territory Police experienced an unprecedented level of domestic violence. Well, I'm telling you, I've experienced the domestic violence levels in the Northern Territory, and if he's saying there was an unprecedented weekend, that is insane. That
Yep.
means that the police in the Northern Territory, and he was talking territory wide, they must have gone, forget job to job, They must have
Mm.
gone from domestic to domestic to domestic and bugger all else. So
Yep.
nothing. This is the general duties and obviously the DV units and the crime units investigating more serious matters. They must have dealt with nothing but that crap all weekend. There's just he said there's been an escalation, and he went on about how it's outside the control of police, and it needs to be a whole of government and a whole of community. And I like the fact he said community. The government can only do so much. At what point does the community take responsibility for this shit? Like,
Well,
you
I
know,
100% agree, mate. And I'm sorry, mate. I'm
I
just
don't
gonna come in
go.
there. So, what you said earlier when Beck said about how we talk about the old days and all that sort of thing, and it took me back, and I actually mentioned it that night. The fact that when I came to Catherine when I was working Ramangini to catch up, and I met one of the officers as they were walking out the door who I knew. And it was at the change of shift, that time when we always just moved over to the Bill Connon Club, whether you drank or not, didn't matter. You just went over there to have a talk as a team. So as your crew, you went over there. And I said to her, I said, "Oh, is everybody must be finished, have they?" And she goes, "No." And I said, "Well, where?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm heading home." I said, "Well, what?" And she goes, "Oh no, the other guys got an arrest and all this sort of thing, and somebody else has got something else to do." And then you see another person leave, and there's other people from that same crew still there. That never happened in our day.
No,
Or very rarely, occasionally, if they had someone like a kid to pick up and all that, that was fine. That's acceptable and all that sort of thing. But everybody, it was no one was left standing, if you know what I mean. Like no, you would leave no person behind. It's a bit like the army, if they all go in as a team, they all come out as a team, whether they're dead or alive. It doesn't matter.
yeah,
And it was like that when we finished shift. Not quite as dramatic, but you stayed
nowhere
there.
near as dramatic, but yes. Let's get the difference between dragging your dead mate out and we're just finishing someone else's
Sorry.
statement. Like, we'll do ours, or statement's a bad example, but doing someone else's paperwork. Like, hey,
Mm.
what more to the file have you have to do?
Yep.
You do your statement, I'll do the rest of your file. Yeah,
Yep.
you left together, right? What do you guys need? What do you guys need? Let's sort that. Oh shit, we haven't fueled up our car. You guys are finished. No worries, we'll take your car and fuel it up.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
what's with these Macca's wrappers? We threw them out. That's going to cost you a beer. All that
Yeah.
camaraderie, that stuff. That's what pulled the team together.
Yep.
And it's just,
Exactly.
it breaks my heart. She goes, God, that never happens. You turn up
Yep.
to work and it's just, you do your thing,
The-
and you and your
And
partner, and you go
and
home.
it's no reason why there's so much more burnout these days. There is
Yeah,
no reason. I sit there and look at it. You want people to stay in the police force. Look about the quality of the job, not money. The NT
yeah.
police, I mean, money is good. It's a good incentive. However, if you cannot sit there and work with your crew and have fun with your crew and enjoy going to the jobs and actually have a motivation to do it, you can throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at them.
Well, I look at it this way: how much would I work for someone to hate every minute of my job?
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
sorry, but there's no money. You couldn't pay me. Unless I got home and all of a sudden, oh, there's another $1,000,000 today, Barb. Well, it was a shit of a day, but there's $1,000,000, so I'm going to enjoy my private jet ride tonight. Like, yeah, I
That's
could
right.
tolerate that, but it ain't $1,000,000. I'm giving you the drum. It's not bad money. It's quite good money, but it's not worth that. It's not worth hating getting out of bed. And you said it the other day. If I ever got out of bed in the morning and really went, oh, I just can't believe I have to go to that show again today,
Mm,
then that's not good. That's not
no.
how it should be. I have felt that in the police force. I've got out of bed not very often, but I remember when I did, going,
Mm.
I really don't want to go to work today. And
Yep.
that was the hardest day you'd ever do in your
Well,
life because your mindset's terrible.
exactly. And look, and just leading into that, what happened was when I was in the family and domestic violence unit, we had to get psych assessed. I can't remember; it was every 3 months or every 6 months, something like that, because they reckon it was a toll. Mine, it honestly, working in the family and domestic violence didn't really bother me that much. I
Yeah, they
think
were
it
the
was,
well checks,
yeah,
6
yeah, the
monthly
welfare
well
check,
checks. Yeah.
yeah. But they do a psych test, and anyway, one of the questions in there, and we answered every single time, and it said, "Do you ever wake up in the morning and feel like it's not worth going to work?" And I could on like at that stage, I was working 12. I was only supposed to be working 8 hour days. I was working 12-hour days at least, and non-stop. It was a busy time in my career. And I was sitting there going, I think normal people would actually get burnt out like doing this, because it was full on, like you in crime, like just about everybody else in Catherine Station. And I could honestly say, no, I woke up every morning sitting there going, I am going to make a difference today.
Mm.
I am going to make a difference today. And I did that day in, day out for almost 10 years.
Mm.
And it was only, I was out in Ramangini, I'd been going absolutely flat out for years and years and years. And then suddenly I woke up one morning, I was always in there. I woke up at 6. I used to go for a run because you can't drink out there. So you always woke up pretty bright and sprightly. And then I would go for a run. I'd come back, have a quick bite to eat, and I was always in an hour before my shift when I
Mm.
was looking after Ramangini. And then I woke up one morning and I said, and I just thought, I said, who gives a fuck if I don't get there until 8? And I just remember that questionnaire, and I've gone, fuck, it's finally broke me.
Yeah.
So, and from then on, mate, that was a day of realizing or reckoning, because I'd done those psych tests and I've gone, ah, shit, that's not good.
No. So I'll cycle it back. Geez, we're good at digressions, but that's okay. I'll cycle it back to our question about the entry standards of policing and the psych
Yeah.
testing and stuff like that. So you imagine that the job's changed. So the job now, geez, I reckon I'd struggle, mate. If I can't have a laugh at work, I'm going to struggle to be there, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
work in an environment now where we have to provide an excellent product. We're private sector. People will just go elsewhere and we lose money. So it's not life and death, but it's corporately
Yeah.
necessary. And I work with great people, and we have a bloody good laugh. We're all a bit old school. We've got excellent senses of humour. Our language is a bit out there at times, and that's good. But it's a pleasure to go to work. So if it's not a pleasure to go to work, and you've already lowered the standards, so you've dropped resilience, you've dropped this, you might have a few nutters in there. That's not good.
Mm.
So I think I might do a bit of a Damo analysis of what I'm seeing. The job quality has dropped, and I don't want to be controversial. And this is shouting out. Oh, I mean, bugger it! I will be controversial. And the thing is, I want them to fix the problem.
Yeah.
So I want the bosses to go, we need recruits, drop the standards. That's called cannon fodder. Okay, what's going to happen is down the track, that basically kicking the can down the road. You're employing people now into a job that is absolutely proven to cause PTSD, depression, divorce, dramas like that. That shit happens. It's also a very, very rewarding job for the right people in the right environment. You are dealing with this really high-end stuff, but that stuff's rewarding, like we've spoken about before. So you imagine 10, 15 years down the track now, when this recruit cohort have come through from these lower standards and been exposed to exactly the same, and I would even say escalating issues as far as crime and support and legalities and like inhuman accountability. So you make a mistake, you're hung, drawn, and quartered. You get those people down the track, and imagine the mental health burst that comes at the end, the mental health issues that are going to burst out at the back end of this. So,
Yep.
and then you talk about accountability. Well, accountability goes both ways. You guys, if I was a lawyer going back on a class action, you guys employed these people knowing that the standards have been dropped. You know what the job does. You've got years and you've got decades of data saying what's going to come out of this. You
Yep.
lowered the standards. These people all have now got mental health conditions that happen. Like it happens. If you carry 50-kilo blocks around on your back for 10 years, you're going to get a sore back. If you go to traumatic incidents day after day after day, you are going to get some level of PTSD. It's going to occur.
Yep.
Case in point, bloody us, and we're at the lower end of the spectrum. So you've moved the problem down the road. This is not fixing the problem. It's short term, quick, get the troops on the road. Yeah, I get it. There's money, there's this, there's that. It's like, how about you improve the job again?
Exactly, mate. And one point, and I said it that night as well. I won't mention the squad. There was one squad that came out. It was years after that we actually came out, And I remember that there was actually a particular sergeant in the college that said they weren't ready to come out and graduate. Unfortunately, politically, they were pushed to do it
Yeah.
because politics wants numbers. They want numbers on the road so they can sit there and say to all the people voting for them, "Look how good we are. We've got
Yeah.
another 100 police out on the road." However, what that did to the police force, it almost stopped us in our tracks. It was like somebody put on the emergency brake.
Yeah.
And so you've got all the people out there, like, like hundreds of others like ourselves. We're working hard. We've got a momentum going. We're being proactive to a certain amount of time and reactive. Then suddenly the brakes get pulled on and we get held back. And then it puts more stress on us because then we've got to compensate
Yeah.
for these other recruits coming in. It's not entirely their fault.
No,
The
it's not
fault
their
is the
fault.
department, the fault is the training, and the fault is the push from politics to get these people in there. But then you've
Yeah.
got the mental health of the people that had a momentum going, and then suddenly you've stuffed them up. I remember coming in, and we'll mention it like Tony Henry's. He was a senior sergeant for a little bit, and Dingle and I'd come to work, and we'd see all these tasks on our things for jobs that weren't even related to us. Anyway, so we're smashing through these tasks, and we're going like, and it was almost like 10 a day of different jobs that we had nothing to do with. And anyway, we said to him, I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Look, unfortunately, guys, I am so under the pump to clear up these jobs. I needed to give it to somebody who knows what they're doing."
Yeah.
That is so then that's stress on us and that puts us in burnout. So it's exactly what you said. If the bosses and the politicians don't realize what you're doing, you're going to end up with no one in the police.
Yeah. No, it's. Yeah. Oh, we're gonna crack a little horn's nest open with this one. Anyway, it's mate. It needs to be said.
It does.
This job, people, I'm resilient enough to just chuckle when someone says, "Oh, you coppers sitting around on your ass doing nothing." Hey, whatever, champ. I'm not even going to explain it to them. Why would you bother? But it's
Yep.
like I haven't met a cop at my era who did the time that we've done, who doesn't look back and go, "Geez, I remember that." There are more with look issues. They're bloody issues. There's more with issues. We got the resilience to deal with them a lot of the time, but bloody well, not all of them. I've got enough
Yeah.
mates lying 6 foot under the ground to prove that. But it's you can't just throw everyone into this job. There's a reason that they've had psychometric testing in policing for decades. For a very
Yeah.
long time, there's been psychometric testing. So the two, I think I mentioned it earlier, two levels of protection are required here. You protect the person who you're going to expose to all this crap from stuff that's going to hurt them. It's going to mentally hurt them and probably physically hurt them over their career, however short that may be. And then you've got the other side of the house where you're getting people who should never be given authority and never be given a firearm.
Yep.
And they're potentially going to start sneaking in. And we've seen them, they've been around a long time. But the
Mm.
trouble is, if you remove that testing, that's another safeguard that protected the community from people who love authority and may not have a lot of empathy.
Yep.
That's not good. So psychometric testing tests a lot of different traits of personality, and they know what works. It doesn't mean your personality is terrible. It just means that your traits change.
Yeah.
So your traits. There are certain traits required. Sorry.
Mm.
I'm a bit distracted. We're getting a bit of a storm here, and my phone's on silent, but it's rung 6 times, and it's all different people. I reckon there might be something
But,
going on.
hey, Damo, the cyclone's coming to me, mate, not you.
Yeah, but we're on the southern edge, mate, and we're getting belted right now, and you're sitting nice and calm right in the middle of where the eye's about to hit. So, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, yeah. So I don't like it. It's not good. Lowering the standards is not good. So, yeah, it just does concern me. But
Well,
what else did he go on with, mate? We've rattled that on for half an hour. What else has he spoken about?
oh, we have, mate. I'll just look. I'll just add one last bit onto that, and look, it's the fact that look, it just needs to be looked at. The evidence is there, And you're exactly right. We've spoken about this before. This is a career. Is a lifestyle. Sorry, we've spoken about it, and you need to be able to accept that. This part, I think, one of the parts that they said, there's not many people want to go to Townsville. Yes, it is a smaller centre and all that sort of thing, but people want to live in Brisbane. Well, you're a Queensland Police Force. Like,
Yeah.
one of the questions when we went in was, well, are you willing to go everybody? And everybody ticks yes, because that's a requirement to get into the police force. And
Well, if
then
you tick no,
suddenly,
you didn't get a job.
yeah.
Simple as that. No.
And then suddenly people want to be a bit precious and only want to live in Darwin. Well, look, there's nothing wrong with policing in Darwin. However, policing is such a versatile role. You can't learn everything in Darwin. You can't learn everything at Bush. You can't learn everything in Catherine, and you can't learn everything in Larger Manu.
No.
But,
The other thing is, mate, there's just a requirement that police serve everywhere. There are
yep,
police in every little town. In
yep,
in the little town that I grew up in, far western Queensland, I did 5 years out there in the late 80s and early 90s, called Junda, southwest of Longreach. I lived out there for 5 years. And in Junda, you point me to the civil engineering firm. You point me to the law firm in the middle of Junda.
yep. Yeah,
I'll tell
that's
you what
right.
there was a pub, a general store, and a police station, and a little tiny clinic. And that's what was there. So when you break it down to basics, when you get real small on basics in a little town, there's a police station, and they need actual police officers there. So,
Yep.
so if you want to be a copper, the whole idea is that you're going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And we've already mentioned it before. Policing out in the bush is brilliant.
It
It's
is. It is.
fantastic.
And actually, mate, you've just given me an idea.
Mm.
So, what you're talking about, what are we going to move on to next, mate? Well, in fact, I was actually talking to Pete Mattiatis, because he's all about small business and being supporting the community you're in, and whether you're in a big city, that might be in the suburb you're in, and all that sort of thing. But so with the cyclone coming, we were going to mention it. Haven't mentioned it yet, but all the what do you call it when
Panic
you
buy.
panic buy? That's it.
Yeah.
Yes, and of course, so Pete's store, he's got a small fruit and veggie store. It's kind of got some specialised stuff in it as well. But of course, everybody's coming in there. Same with like Coles, Woolworths and all that sort of thing. They're just getting stuff like bought off the shelves and all that sort of thing. Now, it's one thing that's important is actually looking after those community businesses, because they will help you in times of need. The fact is, Pete still has eggs. The reason he's got eggs is because he can manage his store better for the people coming in than what Woolworths can in Indooroopilly.
Yeah.
And so that is why you look after those local stores, because they can read the community better than Woolworths can. Woolworths is a massive organisation, or Coles are massive organisations, but they have very little to do with the community that they live in,
Yeah.
apart from their workers. That's it. But their workers do not read the community like these little stores do. And we've spoken about in emergencies and all that sort of thing, how it's those stores that help you out when in your times of need. So, but mate, you want to go on about paint buying, because apparently toilet paper is going out the door as well. And look,
Panic buying. Good old panic buying. In Australia especially, don't get me wrong, if people need to stock up, the whole idea is to sort of just be prepared anyway. Like the panic buying, I get it if you need food. The thing that should be, you buy tin food. Like if the power goes out and you've got no gas, no electricity, no nothing, you can't heat a feed up. At the end of the day, you can crack open a tin and just eat it straight out of the tin. It's survival food. I don't think the southeast Queensland is going to get to that.
No.
Southeast Queensland is a bloody big place. There's too many people there. What I laugh about this stuff is that North Queensland and the Northern Territory and Northern WA are just laughing their ass off. Do you know what panic buying occurs in the north of Australia when a cyclone's coming? The bottle shops get bashed. No one else gives a rat's ass. They've got enough food. If the power goes out, it's all good. We'll pull the generator out. No trouble. Everything's fine. But you sissies in Brisbane, Schultzie, I love Brisbane. I won't run you down too much.
Well, mate,
You go out, panic buy, like just no need. Just have it there. If you've got tin tucker, reduce yourself. You might have to eat some bloody tin spaghetti.
Oh no,
It's lovely.
Mate, Damo, I can tell you, Pete and I have already discussed it today. We've figured out what we're going to do. We have stocked up on grog. We have plenty of alcohol to last us, and we can actually drink. We can put 1 or 2 tins away. However, the other thing is, and I took you in there, the butcher stop, because if they lose power, a lot of their meat's going to go off.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the thing is, mate, we have slow cookers that use charcoal. So what we've decided to do, that if that happens, we are going to start pulling that meat out and actually do a community meals on our slow cookers.
Yes, perfect. Because even
So,
if it's just not rotten meat, but
no,
even if it's just starting to, oh, maybe not. If you cook it to 96 degrees for bloody
that's
18 hours, I'd eat it. I'll just flick the maggots to the side. Don't worry about them.
right.
Yeah. There's going to be nothing in there that'll kill you,
but,
and
but
it'll
mate,
taste good.
we're gonna have a great time just
Yeah,
doing
no, you'll
slow
be right.
cooked meat and having a few tins.
Yeah, absolutely. No, no, look, panic buying's a bit silly because, um, and the true panic buying is not when people just go, "Oh, gee, I do need to go and stock up, and I do need to get." Absolutely, you
Mm.
need to get your things in order, and that's fine. Um, you've got to remember that supply chains are looking at this stuff as their role in life. So your
Yep,
big suppliers, all of your major supermarkets, they preempt this stuff way in advance, and they pre-position warehouses with stuff to restock shops.
yep.
So don't think you're going to run out of food. You're
And
not going to. We're in a first world country in 2025. Unless we're in Armageddon and it's World War III, you're not going to run out of food. And
no,
certainly not for a windy little storm like, well, that's, look, I deliberately understate things. You're going
yep,
to be fine. Secondly, it's like the things I'd be hitting Dan Murphy's like you wouldn't believe in case they all lose power and everything goes out. At least you've got your little stocks and you can sit at home and just relax and have a beer. Have tin tucker, have your beers ready to roll.
yep,
I just laugh at toilet paper. At
yep,
the end of the day, you got to remember some of the rainfall predictions for southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales are 1,000 millimeters. I think they've been downgraded, but they were about at one point there were 1,000 millimeters of rain. There's going to be plenty of water. Go
yep,
outside and clean your butt with that.
yep.
Like you don't need toilet paper. You do need food. You do need water. I reckon you do need a quiet beer because when you got nothing else to do and you're bunkering down, and take it easy, but have a beer. Now, on a serious note, heed the warnings of the government. If you're about to get flooded and you are drunk as a bastard and can't be evacuated from your house, then you're a pain in the ass and you're putting other people at risk. If you're being sensible and you've taken your precautions and you've got everything there and you're having a quiet beer, there's no
Yep,
dramas.
yep,
Don't flood the roads. Don't panic. Run. Don't do anything else. If you're in a house that's going to go a meter underwater, as in over your roof, yeah, go now. You should already be at your relative's place in bloody Rockhampton.
yep.
But don't. Oh, anyway, we should stop spruiking common sense. Someone will sue us
What,
because they take
what?
us for granted.
Well, mate, we've got no life in politics if we keep this common
No, no.
sense shit up. But yeah, mate, yeah, that's exactly right. And look, the thing is for this panic buying, if you're buying perishable stuff, your power's probably going to go out. Let it sit in the storeroom in
Yeah,
Woolworths, or stock houses and all that sort of stuff in Woolworths and Coles and Pete's, and where they actually have power to look after this stuff,
yeah,
and then just go and buy it at the shop the next day,
yeah.
because they have the equipment to actually hold this stuff cold. So it's no good you buying it all and then not having power to keep it cold, so you're going to have to throw it all out.
And you throw it away. Yep. So
Yep,
you've taken it off the shelves. Other people can't buy it, and you've just thrown it in the bin.
yep,
You've
exactly.
panic bought crap that becomes your own rubbish.
Yep.
Congratulations. Yeah. No, there's no need. But I mean, we can spruik all day. It's not going to happen. So
No, no, well,
anyway,
that's right. It did actually bring me to one point, and I did think about it today because, of course, I mean, I watched Ramangini as it went through a Category 5, and then I think it was about a month later, it was another cyclone came through, which was Category 3. Didn't quite get as close. However, I was sitting there thinking, in honestly, out in those communities, they're fairly easy to manage when you look back. Yeah, it's devastating and all that sort of thing. But you imagine the amount of personalities in somewhere like Brisbane, you're bound to get a few idiots.
one or two,
Or
mate. One or two.
yeah,
It's not. It's not exclusive to Brisbane, mate.
no, no, it's not.
Yeah.
You've just got a larger number of people and like probably the same amount of sensible people as you do idiots, but you've got to compensate for that number of people that will do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit harder, I think, in a
And
big.
look, another thing, and this is not a takeaway. It just means the quality of life is in Brisbane is really good.
It is.
The fact of the matter is that people in more remote areas are used to having to be more self-reliant. You don't do 3 days worth of shopping; you do a month's worth of shopping because you
Yeah.
have to. You've got a really big chest freezer because you need it to be there. You rely on that chest freezer, so you will have a power supply should the power go down because the power goes out a bit.
Mm,
You may be at the very end of your grid. I'm talking more Western Queensland. The Northern Territory is a bad example.
yeah.
The Northern Territory's got its completely own grid, and a lot of these small communities have their own generator. So the whole of the country could have no power, but in Largemana, we would still have power because there's a generator running. Runs all
Yeah.
the time. Burns tens of thousands of litres of diesel a bloody week.
Yeah.
So, or not a week, but probably a month or two. So that just is there. That's already there. So cattle stations. Cattle stations are completely independent, completely void of requirement for input. They need to do big store supplies on a semi-regular basis. But if there's something coming up, they do plan well in advance. If they've got a big muster and they're going to have a lot of contractors, they'll plan that months out.
Mm,
So people who aren't in the middle of Brisbane, and I'm like I said it before, I'm not taking away, but you've got the ability in the middle of Brisbane. Just go, oh, I just need that. I'll just duck down to Woolies or I'll duck down to
yeah.
this. And this is all major centres.
Yeah.
Or I'll just duck down to Myer or I'll duck down to what, replace that name with any shop that isn't anywhere except a capital city.
Yep.
You've got to understand that in Townsville, in Cairns, in Cooktown, in those places up on the east coast, far northeast coast of Queensland, they've had Category 5 cyclones come through massive areas. Sorry, I should say massively populated areas, and they've coped. It's been bloody
Mm,
hard, but they coped. There's a lot of resilience. There's a lot of coping ability
yeah.
up there. The southeast corner of Queensland isn't that resilient
No,
as
you're
far
right.
as that goes. They've had massive floods. I'll give them that. The big floods were a major drama, and I must admit the response was brilliant.
Yep.
We've mentioned it only 2 episodes, I think, ago, that the response at the end was absolutely brilliant. But I think there's not that exposure to these self-reliant problems that come and go,
Yep.
and as a result, it should just teach people to just, instead of having a couple of days worth of groceries, let's have a fortnight's worth of groceries in the house all the time.
Mm,
Little things
yep.
like that. It just relieves everything, relieves the pressure. I will also add, you're going to have an absolute glut of first responders up there too. So you've got a lot of resources. You'll be fine. It's
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah, mate. Yeah, you're dead right. You're very privileged to be living in this area. So, and like
Mm.
you said, mate, it's honestly it's a category two. This is not.
Yeah, it's more the sea state and the
It
amount of
is.
rain it's going to dump. I
Yeah.
think the cyclone impact itself, who knows, mate? I'm not a meteorologist. I don't know why I'm
It's
getting,
it's
I
probably
don't think
more
I've
the
got brain surgery
flooding.
either.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
probably more the flooding that's going to be more
The
drama than.
flooding's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So I think northeast New South Wales. I understand that this podcast is going to come out on Friday when we can probably answer all these questions. We're recording this on Tuesday, and
Well,
at this stage, it's all about to impact, so we don't know. But this isn't our first rodeo. It's not. It's not
no.
Queensland's first rodeo. Lismore went through catastrophic flooding just 3 years ago, so
Yep.
um, there's
So
lots of experience around the place when it comes to emergencies. And yeah, we'll see how we go, mate.
yeah, well, exactly right. And the reason we're actually doing it tonight, because this is Tuesday night, before we release on Friday, was because we're just worried about how the internet will be and power and all that sort of thing. If we try and do it later on in the week. But mate, I reckon that might almost wrap us up. What do you reckon?
That'll wrap us up, Schultze.
All right.
I've got
Well,
about 6 phone calls to make back. There must be something happening around here because never happens. It's past my bedtime, mate. Yeah.
all right. Well, mate, we'll sign off, and the next episode we'll talk about how it all came out. Because, and I will say before we actually head off, I am probably almost the calmest person around here. One, because it's not my first rodeo, and I also like to have plans, and I've got a plan in place. However, it doesn't matter how well you plan. It's only that plan's only as good as your first instant, because as soon as something happens, it throws that plan out the window.
I'll end that, and that's a very well trained thing in the military, in the police, in emergency services. But no one ever put it more eloquently than Mike Tyson. Everyone's got a plan how to win until they get punched in the face. And
mate,
on that note, we'll talk to you next week.
That's a great one to finish up on. All right. Well, this is a Children of Cop signing off. We'll see you next week.
All the best.